we'll open it up for questions. I mean, I really hope it just flows like this, like a conversation. And, please feel free to ask questions in the chat if you're out there listening. And if not, let me just check and see, are there any questions?
I just have to say, Karla, when you said we just felt like cockroaches, I mean, if I were writing about this, that would be my headline. But like, what a difficult feeling that is. Sorry, I'm having a bad position here. But, and also like, when you couldn't intervene but also I loved it when you said you learned from the photographer, and, you learned an ethical thing from the photographer because, we all work together, and I thought that was a wonderful thing that the photographer intervened and said, told your source, these are your choices. And but I applaud you for all this. This is all just incredibly difficult reporting, and all those. Just when you said we felt like cockroaches. That, to me, that says it all. Like encapsulates all the different challenges you were facing. Not easy.
Yeah, because what are we first? Are we people? Then if we're people, shouldn't we be telling her, like, don't put yourself in more danger? Or it's
the perennial question, right? Yeah, it's the perennial question. When I give talks on ethics in journalism, ethics in conflict reporting, the case study I always start with is a time in Iraq in southern Iraq during an uprising in Najaf, a young militant from the Mahdi army, child soldier, actually 14, 15 years old, came up to me, saw my sat phone. He said, I'm going to go out there and die in battle today. And I'm sure of that. But I just would like to hear my mom's voice one more time. Can I use your sat phone to call her? And we're taught, you don't do that. You don't help a combatant. You don't do anything. You don't intervene. And I let the kid use my sat phone and I heard him, and I was making sure it wasn't, calling in coordinates for an airstrike or just something, for an attack of some sort. But that was, I always pose that to whatever class or whatever I'm speaking to. And it's really interesting to hear people struggle with that question. So I think, it's not just on a human level. These are hard questions, and those hard and fast ethics rules they teach you in J school get a lot grayer on the ground. Yeah. So is that something, that's evolved in your thinking on this beat? Are there, you're dealing sometimes often with incredibly, vulnerable women who are trusting you with some of the most horrific times and circumstances of their lives.
I think what's evolved, I used to be like, this is my list of questions that I have to get. I can't care about the effect because they will make the story. And now over the last few years, I'm just like, you know what, if this is a question that's going to harm the person who is opening up to me in one of the most difficult, vulnerable points in their life, I'm not going to ask that question. Fuck it. Like, the story in Argentina, so we didn't get to interview the 11-year-old, but there was a 12-year-old we found at a nearby village or town. She had gone through the same thing. She had been raped. She was pregnant. She had a very late term abortion because the state stalled. And we got an interview with a 12-year-old, which was terrifying. And, obviously I wanted to ask about the time when she was in the hospital and the doctors and blah, blah, and the abortion itself. And I was like, you know what? No, like who am I to put her through more? And so we just talked about her, and she loved to paint her nails, and she loved to just sit, and she's 12, she loved to sit in her backyard, which was not the kind of backyard we're imagining. There was one tree, and in that tree, there were parrots that would come at a certain time, and she loved to just go out and sit and spot the parrots and listen to the parrots. And I thought that, you know what, you give up some questions to bring in humanity and to not hurt the person who is depositing so much trust in you. And so that's, now I'm like, if bringing the story means re-victimizing someone, I just won't do it.
And listening to you explain that and paint that scene is exactly why you won the Madeline Dane Ross Award, because it just feels like, you know, these stories center around really just everyday, ordinary people and their experiences. And you know, one of the things I used to admire about the late Anthony Shadid is that when someone asked him, you know, oh, what's it like being a war reporter? He used to say, well, I cover people, and sometimes conflict is the backdrop to that. And I think your work is an example of that tradition.